Alright, this is my podcast about this book called Shudder, which was made by Courtney Almeida. And Shudder is a horror, ghost story, mystery-esque book about a group of friends hunting a ghost to try to save their lives. In the beginning, we see a ghost attack at a hospital, and this set many civilians into panic, but as we'd learn, our main character is not a civilian, including many of her friends and many other people we'll see in this book. Her name, the main character, is Michelin Helsing, who decides to go after the ghost unauthorized, even though it's way out of order. Long story short, her friends Ryder, Oliver, and Jude all go after to help her because they don't want to just abandon her and let her die. But they do get infected with the curse called a soul chain, and it's basically just these chains that wrap around your innards, your body, not physically, but only certain people can see them, and I'll get into that a bit later. But after a visit with one of the doctors in Helsing's Corp, who is also a father of one of the characters we know, I'm pretty sure Oliver, or he might just be one of the main people who were in Helsing Corp. He's in one of the main families, at least, I should say. His name is Dr. Montgomery. There is also another doctor who isn't as interesting since he isn't talking with the ghost. But they talk with the ghost. The ghost tells them that, it's a soul chain. That's how they figure it out. They have to talk to the ghost through a mirror, everything like that. And basically, the rest of the story showcases the character struggling with sneaking away from Helsing Corp and Michelin's father. His name is Leonard Helsing, who is a very controversial character, as near the beginning, he slaps Michelin very hard. It's so hard, in fact, that Michelin feels a crack, not a crack, but she feels something in her neck that just pops just a little bit, and she falls completely to the ground. But she did say she wished she had died with her mother, which is also something I'll get into shortly. But staying on topic, about characters that I'd like to mention, Michelin is just your average rebellious teenager, but she has lots of other qualities too that you can see throughout the book. She's really stubborn, yet she's also very sensitive at times with certain people. She really puts up a wall because of what's happened. She's also been trained to be a hardcore Helsing soldier, as she is the daughter of Leonard Helsing, and the Helsing family is one of the three main families that started the corporations. One family had died off, now there's only two left, but the corporation is still going strong. And she has a forbidden romance with Ryder, which the romance itself isn't anything great. And, as we said, her relationship with her father is a bit complicated. She has a couple friends, Jude, Oliver, those are the main two we see throughout the story. And her mother and brothers had actually died in an attack. Her mother was infected by a paranormal entity, and, there wasn't many options. I don't think there was any cures at the time, because now there are cures for the soldiers if you administer them in a quick enough time span, but, may not always work. There's also the fact that she's a tetrachromat, I believe that's how you say it, which means that she can see ghost light, which is what emanates from a paranormal entity that it changes in shades and colors depending on the type. Off the top of my head, there are ghosts, there are like zombie-like creatures, right? Zombie-like creatures can give you infections. That's the most. There was also vampires. Vampires are not a main factor anymore since they have been extinct, which you'll have to see, because I don't want to say if they are or if they're not, because maybe if you read it you'll see. But there's sometimes the light you see can vary depending on the type and the strength as well. Moving on to Ryder. Ryder is the forbidden love interest, and he's a complete package of a soldier. He's one of the best in Helsing Corporation, despite not being one of the top families. And Leonard Helsing took him in, and he's very respectful towards many people. And we also have Jude. He has this ability to see the dead if he touches somebody, which is just, he usually wears gloves, but this ability has stopped him from growing close to many people. Also because he just doesn't, it takes a toll on him seeing people he loves and seeing their future and when they'll die, because he has to constantly think about it. It's not great, but still is a very useful ability and is used around the beginning part of the book, not too far in, about 100 pages or so. Michelin uses it, and the last character who's in this friend group who is going after the ghost to save their lives is Oliver, who's a tech wizard, pretty much. He's the person who developed Michelin's camera, which is it's this camera specifically made to combat ghosts and entities like that. Many other hunters have to get in really close to the mirror, which is very, very dangerous depending on the circumstance and the strength of the ghost. But where I believe this book truly shines is in its world building and its style. Almeida's writing of horrifying scenes, grotesque monsters, and ghosts, how she describes the environment and the atmosphere, is phenomenal. You can really feel it, and that is definitely the book's strongest point. As I said, the world building is amazing. She's able to just sneak information in there. In the beginning, it was a little bit too forced. We had a huge information drop, but in general, the world building is amazing. And it just really helps not having bad world building in any story, because then it doesn't feel as immersive, stuff like that. And it's just easy to recognize and pick up on. And the themes in the book are really interesting as well. It displays that having people who care and wish to help and are kind of fighting alongside you is a great way to help you conquer stuff, right? Michelin is the type of character this is a little bit of a flaw of her. She's very self-absorbed. Michelin is a very self-absorbed character, which it makes things a little bit awkward in the book, and she just rushes in most of the time, but it's still great. There are a couple of criticisms I do have, though. Of course, I loved most of the time it was fast-paced, lots of action, great world building, good writing. What I didn't love was sometimes if I'm being completely honest, I have not finished this book yet. The main reason is because I would be able to fly through the book, but there's some parts that the pacing is so slow, I've not been able to pick it up and really read it again, which is just something I want in a book. I want it to be completely well-paced throughout the entirety, because I might just get bored halfway through. And it was creepy, it was horrifying in some sections, but it wasn't as much horror as I thought it was. At the point in the book it's not as horrifying as I thought it would have been. Most of the time, things were quite predictable as well. I didn't really enjoy it. And I haven't seen the ending yet, but from, I searched up a little bit while I was writing. On this website, the Sassy Geek, it's, but apparently the ending is very rushed. I saw a lot of different people talking about this. The ending was not great. In complete honesty, the ending was not great. The romance was also Ryder was mostly there for the romance. He never really developed. Honestly, everybody outside of Michelin and a couple other characters was very 2D. Michelin felt realistic. She was probably the best character, I'd say. But every other character was just kind of they weren't the greatest, if I should say the least. They were not the greatest. And I usually love having great characters, but I still, in general, I still did enjoy this book. This book was still very interesting, and I recommend it if you just want to have a quick read. In my opinion, this book is really good just for one quick read. You want a little bit of horror, a little bit of action, little bit of romance, and if you enjoy books with good plot, well, I think another weak point I would say is the plot. The plot's very predictable. It's misleading. It's not really horror. It's not super creepy. It's like some parts were really great in the horror aspect, but not many were. And the plot is very linear. From what we were told, 7 days to go and hunt this ghost. That is pretty much the entire story. And she doesn't develop on the plot too well, the characters too well. You know, she's great with atmosphere and description, but that's pretty much it for amazing aspects of this book. But still, if you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of mysteries, I guess, thrillers, ghost stories, this is a good book for you to read, in my opinion. So, I think you should give Shudder a try. It's Shudder by Courtney Almeida, and that's all.